Hello everyone, thanks for stopping by. Today is Monday, June 5th, the first Monday of the month, and that means it is Original Art Monday. Every first Monday of a month I'm taking a day off from my schedule and spend the whole day creating original art for my patrons over at patreon.com. And today is not any Original Art Monday, it's the first anniversary of Original Art Monday, and that's the reason why I took some extra effort today and recorded the creation process of one of my original artworks. You can see it over here. So if you want to see me drawing this, and if you want to listen to my commentary doing that, this video is for you. I hope you have a good time, and yeah, let's see how this is done. So Original Art Monday basically starts like any other Monday by booting my computer and waiting for it to boot. And the first software that I'm firing up is Photoshop. There we go. So Photoshop, you might wonder, isn't this Original Art Monday? So shouldn't I be working on paper? The thing is that at some point I decided that it's much less stressful for me to begin my drawings in Photoshop, where I have all those nice little tools where you can scale around and move around stuff and adjust everything just to a point where it looks good. And I'm starting here to do a rough scribble of Loki because my theme for today's Original Art Monday is Loki. I want to create drawings featuring Loki. And preferably I want to find some poses and some things that Loki does that adds a little bit to the character that we know from the graphic novel. So I'm searching for poses here that might be interesting. So I have him crouching, I have him sitting. What is this going to be? Maybe he's holding something, maybe a crystal or something like that. I did not yet have the big idea, the good idea that will carry this first original artwork. But I have now duplicated one of the drawings and I'm adjusting it by moving stuff around. You see, that's what I was talking about. Sketching digitally gives you a lot of freedom. And now he's holding something in his hands and he's eating it. And I decided that this is the pose that I want to go with. I take this very rough scribble, put it on its own layer, tint it to a very bright yellow, and on a separate layer I'm now creating a second drawing, and I like to color the different drawing layers so that I don't confuse them, that I know what's in what layer. That's a nice technique. And here I'm painting the little bug Loki is eating. I guess that it is a ruby termite. We know from the graphic novel that ruby termites are the favorite food of Wolpertingers and the favorite food of Loki. So this is our drawing coming together. Still, I'm moving stuff around. I'm flipping the drawing to see if something is wrong. The mirror trick, you can do it pretty easily in Photoshop. Just mirror the whole drawing and you will be able to see some of the quirks that weren't just right in the first place. And now a third layer of drawing. This is going to be the final outline that I want to print out. And in this step I really try to define a clear outline that is easy to understand, that is easy to trace. And yeah, it looks like this is going to work. I'm not trying to define every little detail in this step because on the paper I can still make a lot of choices based on the general structure that I define in this preliminary drawing. I just want to make sure that the proportions and the composition of the drawing is okay. And even when it comes to that, I can make some small adjustments on the paper later. But normally it's a good idea to have these things figured out in the preliminary drawing and then just to run with it as soon as we are on paper. So I'm finishing up the outline. It starts to look quite nicely. Mirror again, and now I'm going into the liquify tool, pushing some of the outlines back and forth, adjusting the volumes here and there. This is another nice technique that you can use in Photoshop that I often use when I have spent several minutes on a drawing and there's just some small things that don't quite work yet. I just use the liquify tool and try to fix it. Now some fur markings. These are also important. And I think this is going to be our final drawing that we will send out to the printer. Yeah, that's it. So before I can start with the drawing, I have to prepare my table. It is configured for painting with poster color, and in order to draw on it, I have to get rid of the board on top, and what's revealed is a light table, which is very handy for the kind of work that I'm going to do now. So here's my print, and here's my paper, and I use some sticky tape to stick the paper to the print, and the light from below gives me a pretty clear look on the underlying preliminary drawing that I created in Photoshop. And I have accelerated my work here quite a bit so that we do not spend too much time here with the tracing. However, it's part of the process. In real time, it took about 8 minutes, I think, to trace the outline. And it's important that you take the time to make a proper trace. Basically, you try to copy everything that you see underneath. And here we have the fur markings, and that's basically it. So our trace is ready, and now we can just start with the actual drawing. So the first thing that I do is I add a first layer of shading to the fur markings so that these get darker, so that I actually start to see the shapes in their final value. The traced drawing looked very flat, and now the fur markings alone give the drawing some dimension. And now I'm in close-up, and you can see me shading the eye, and it's It's an elaborate process, so I'm applying layer by layer of shading. I try to be very soft in the shading and not become too dark in the beginning. And only when I have now covered the whole head in a darker value, I go over the fur markings again and make them darker. So it's not so easy to lighten up an area. You can do it with an eraser, but the better approach is to just slowly work towards the values that you want to see in the end. So we have basically 3 values in this figure. It's the lightest value is the white of the white fur on the belly and the breast, and we also have some white fur in the ears. Then the second value is the actual color of Loki's fur, which in the graphic novel is this orange red. And then we have the fur markings, which can become as dark as black at the fingertips and at the toes. And now you see me working on the details of the little ruby termite that Loki is munching. And here I try to be very careful to not obscure the forms with my shading, to keep the dimensions and the volume of the insect, because it's a different case with the hands. They become very dark, and they become so dark. The hands of Loki I'm talking about. They can become so dark that you don't have any shading on them anymore, and then they become pure shapes. And that actually is it's actually an advantage in many cases, because you don't have to care too much about the detail in the fingers and in the toes. You can just make it a black shape. I'm often using that in the graphic novel to save some time. And also in a drawing like this, it helps a little bit. So now I'm expanding the fur color down to the legs. And the toes are darkened. And the drawing starts to come out of the paper, I would say. And here we're in close-up again, so that you can see how I'm using this little hatching technique here to indicate the direction of the fur on the tail. And in the first step, I'm making this very obvious and very visible. But then I'm working over it and cover it up a little bit by a second layer of shading, so that it doesn't become too obvious. I'm not going for a photorealistic style in these drawings, obviously. It's still a cartoon image, but by using hatching techniques like that, you can give it some interesting texture that just makes it look much more interesting on the paper. I'm not doing that in the graphic novel. There I'm using pretty flat colors. So this is actually a nice a nice opportunity to work in a slightly different style with these drawings. So keeping the outlines and the proportions of the characters like they are in the graphic novel, but just experimenting a little bit with texture and stuff on them. I think that this makes those original drawings pretty special, because they are like like out of two worlds. So you see the characters from the graphic novel, but also you get a kind of a new quality on them through those textures that I try to use in these drawings. So we're coming close to the finishing touches on the figure itself. So I'm already refining some of the shades here on the figure, and now I'm going to the rock or tree trunk that Loki is sitting on, and here we are in close-up again, and you can see that I try to indicate the mossy detail. I try not to get too specific here, keeping it a little bit impressionistic, maybe you could say. So I'm trying to keep it painterly a little bit, and then by introducing some darker shades into it, it's getting more diffused still. And I try to bring that together with those little leaves that are drawn in the outline, so that these two regions are in the end fused together, darkening some shades. And here we are in the overview again, and I'm now finishing this element and sharpening the black colored pencil from time to time. I really like to draw with a very sharp point. And now I'm using a knitted eraser to remove some smudges, and here's my signature and the date. And here is the finished drawing, actually. So have a close look at it. Now it's always the same procedure. Oh, and by the way, these are the other drawings that I did today. A nice trio of Loki drawings. And the first thing I do when I'm finished is I scan the drawings. To archive them. And as soon as they are scanned, I actually pack them up. So here's the scanned image. It's going into the file, and now I'm packing it up. I don't want to get used to the idea that I own these original drawings. I want to pack them up quickly to get them out of my sight. Sometimes it's a little bit hard for me to send these nice drawings away. I would like to keep some of them, I admit, but well, okay, I'm doing this for you, for my patrons. All right, so packing it up, nice and tight. So now we have our original art nicely packed up, ready for the big journey around the world. But now we have to figure out where to send them. So how do I choose the patrons that win the original art on Original Art Monday? For that, I'm using a spreadsheet. All my patrons are in this spreadsheet, and the $5 patrons are 5 times in this spreadsheet, and the $10 patrons are 10 times in this list. And now I'm creating an additional column. In this column, I generate random numbers through a random number function in the spreadsheet. I just expand this random number function to all entries. Now every entry has its unique random number. I have to copy that into a new column because with every action you take in the document, the random number is calculated new, and only by pasting them into a new column I can keep them permanent. So at this point, every name in the list has a random number associated to it, and now all I have to do is sorting the list and see which of these numbers come the closest to 1. And here we go. These are the first 3 entries are the names of the people that win the 3 artworks that I created. Congratulations to the winners! If you want to win one of my original artworks, all you need to do is become my supporter on patreon.com and you will have a fair chance in our monthly original art lottery. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope to see you again. Take care and goodbye.